have to pay for it again if we paid to create it. We paid for the entity that created it, and we paid for the product, and then now you're going to rent it back to us? We have to rent it per student, even though it sounds like $5, $7 per student, but there is an upfront initial fee school districts have to pay too. And I just don't get it, why.
Why don't we let him answer the question? But you've asked it 4 different ways, but it's the same question.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll use the school district where my kids attend as an example. We have 1,007 kids K through 12. And so $5 a kid, we pay $5,000 and whatever that, $5,035 per year. We can't hire somebody to help us write our curriculum for $5,000 a year. So it's more than just a teacher writing his or her lessons. Because what C-Scope also does, and what big districts do, and every district should do, is they make sure that the curriculum is horizontally aligned across subject areas and vertically aligned across grade levels. So you got kids, when they get to 6th grade, we know they've been prepared up through the 5th grade. So when it was originally created, and I don't know all the ins and outs, I know the finished product, but I don't know all the details. Region 8 originally started it, and they, quote unquote, owned it when C-Scope was originally born. Then the rest of the regional service centers got in on the action, and they, at the advice of their attorney, created a nonprofit to own the copyrights.
With our money.
Right.
Right.
Anything a school district does, it does with your money.
Okay.
So if a school district saves $5 million by using it, they've saved you $5 million. So anything a school district does is taxpayer dollars. But that still doesn't entitle us to everything that they do. But, so the regional service centers created this nonprofit, and the Secretary of State approved it, the IRS approved it, so the allegation that they created an illegal nonprofit just hasn't been borne out with the facts. So they owned the copyrights to say, we're not going to have to disclose all this per the Open Records Act. And in 2012, Attorney General Greg Abbott agreed with them and said, yes, you are a government entity, but because you compete in the marketplace, you don't have to make all of your lessons subject to open records, because then your competitors could take all of your content and take it from you. So the top lawyer of the state said, you are a government entity, but you don't have to give this to everybody. However, parents get to see everything, and that's never been a question. Now, there have been some teachers that haven't interpreted it correctly, and that's not correct.
Well, who owns it now?
So when the lessons disappeared, or when they got out of the lesson business, they disbanded the nonprofit and transferred all the assets back to the Regional Service Center Collaborative, which is all 20 service centers own collectively the year at a glance, the scope and sequence, and the assessments, but the lessons are free in the public domain. They're on the Texas Tribune website. Those are gone. So they're no longer copyright protected.
So even a district that's not using C-Scope still has to pay some for C-Scope, because we pay to our regional service centers. Our district does. My district doesn't use C-Scope.
But they don't have to pay. They don't have to pay a regional service center for the C-Scope part if they're not using the C-Scope part. They'll, like our district uses Region 8 for accounting services, HR services, so not every small district has to recreate a bunch of central office functions.
Do you know alternatives that were suggested to schools rather than C-Scope from the regional service centers? Did they offer any alternatives?
I don't know. I'm sure either they did or districts pursued them on their own, because a bunch of districts don't use it. So I don't know.
You're on the State Board of Education. You should know the answer to that.
Tell us who you are, please.
Sherry Breda.
It's not under our jurisdiction. So there's a lot of things in education that I don't know. I don't know school finance because we don't do school
C-Scope's your
finance.
favorite?
No.
Well, I was wondering, do you know of any alternatives?
There's Safari Montage. There's districts that develop their own lessons that are now willing to partner with smaller school districts if we want to use what they use. So there are options. I haven't pursued all the options because I'm not trying to force or promote one particular option or the other. I'm trying to let them make that decision for themselves.
Is there an MISD per teacher right now teaching in this room? Because on the curriculum for MISD, and they wrote about it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, it's a different kind of computer-based curriculum. if, I've seen it, but I don't know, but anyway, yes.
I have several questions I'd like to direct to you. The first one is,
Your name, excuse me.
I'm sorry, I'm Myra Johnson, and I am not from Marshall, to just be honest, so this was not funny. What is your opinion on 21st century education?
What's
I
the,
think it started in 1995. Are you not knowledgeable about
Do you
21st?
know Ann Shaw?
You've never heard of this?
I've heard of it, I've heard of the term used in project-based learning and
So
that
you
sort of.
have no opinion?
I'm not an educator.
Okay. Well, your wife is, I figured you might know. But,
She's a Spanish teacher, so.
I noticed that a lot of these use statements like, it's more than the 3 R's right now, different statements like that. But with our students and graduating, not able to do the 3 R's, shouldn't we concentrate on the 3 R's? And can you tell me how creating a communist flag is going to help my children and grandchildren do a 5-paragraph essay to get into college? I pulled my children out. They did a curriculum where they concentrated on the 3 R's. They went to college at 15. They could do a communist flag if they wanted to. But if we concentrate more on our 3 R's, isn't that a curriculum maybe that would be better for our students to make them more competitive?
I agree. I think that goes to the length of our standards. We need to focus on the essentials and not try to cover the entire waterfront. And I think it does lead to kids only memorizing stuff long enough to fill in a bubble sheet rather than truly mastering the content.
So you really would be more, you would be for concentrating more on the 3 R's and getting rid of C-scope altogether? Is that what you're saying?
Well, this isn't a C-scope question, this is a state standard question. We adopt the standards. All C-scope or any textbook company or any provider does is cover what the State Board of Education passes. So what I'm telling you is, as a state board member, I support having our standards narrower and deeper to master content, not try to cover so much stuff that the kids are never going to remember it all and master it all.
Well, then when you look up 21st century learning, I'm not counting on you to be opposed to that.
Okay. Is that an implementation issue or is that a state standards issue?
It would be all encompassing. It would be a total waste of time if you want to shorten it and make it easier for the teachers.
No, I never said easier.
Well, I don't mean easier, but I mean you were talking about the testing and all this other stuff. It would be something that would just hinder and add to the problem.
I'm opposed giving our teachers more of a to-do list. I want them to teach
Right.
and get kids ready for the next step.
Anybody else? Excuse me, let me give us one.
Wendell Jones. Now, the way I've heard you explain C-scope, it's a completely Texas animal, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And from what you understand, it has had no influence from outside this Commons Core that you mentioned. It has had no influence by these national initiatives, like Common Core is a national initiative, has a lot of political agendas behind the Common Core, and I don't know if that's why you're against it or not. But are you saying that there's been no outside influence by Common Core for C-scope?
I don't know every person that have ever helped develop C-scope. I'm telling you, it was written to cover the Texas standards. Now, during the debate, I released a Dropbox with a whole bunch of information, and one of those things in there is the list of authors that helped write the C-scope lesson. I haven't looked at the list, I just got that list and put it in the Dropbox. I don't know those people. All I can tell you is C-scope was developed by Texas Regional Service Centers with Texas teachers to cover the Texas standards. Now, who they worked with or where they drew ideas from, whether they looked at other states individually or whatever, I don't know.
But there were national initiatives that had other agendas in mind.
I'm sure there were.
So, anyway, from what I've read, there's been an overlap between Common Core and C-scope.
They're mentors.
And so, apparently, you're not aware of that, but I think this is worth looking into.
Well, again, if a school district is teaching Common Core, they're breaking the law. And if they're breaking the law, then the principal, the superintendent, the school board, and the teacher are liable for breaking the law. But if they're teaching the Texas standards, as the law requires, again, this gets down to the state's job is to say, here's what we want kids to know. It's the local's job to figure out how to teach it. We can't, the state board certainly can't. I have no staff. We have 15 of us and we share 3 people that are in Austin. For us to try to micromanage hundreds of thousands of classrooms is laughable. And the taxpayer time and money it would take to micromanage all those classrooms is gargantuan. So where people got their ideas or how they're teaching is between the teacher and the parent and the student, not in the state board of education.
These people have asked questions over. Is anybody else that hasn't asked a question?
The name is John Stewart.
I'm sorry, sir?
John Stewart. I'd like to ask a question about the involvement of the colleges and universities in the state education. How effective are they to come up with programs to match Cisco that could meet Texas standards?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. We had the Commissioner of Higher Education, Dr. Raymond Paredes, came and spoke to us July or August. And he talked about how there is a disconnect within the colleges. They can teach them how to be teachers, but there's a disconnect in teaching them how to teach the Texas standards. And so he admits that there is a gap, and that's why a lot of the brand new teachers need something to help them get kick-started, to help them teach the Texas standards. Because in many cases they are very long and very complex. He has some ideas of how to fix that. I don't know how. It seems, from my overly simplistic view, it seems like a no-brainer that you teach a Texas teacher how to teach the Texas standards when they're getting a Texas teacher certificate. But not ever having gone through a college of education, I don't know what all they teach or what they go through for their curriculum, but they are aware, and what's being done about it, I don't know. But
So are they holding them more accountable for the teachers they are turning out to teach Texas standards?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, because there is a discussion between public and higher ed about who is accountable when a teacher enters the classroom thoroughly unprepared to teach. Whose responsibility is that? It's a similar responsibility when a student graduates from high school and makes A's on the tests in high school, but goes to college and can't pass a college class. We missed something along the way. And so there's the chain of accountability is out there. I don't know what the answers are in the higher ed. I have to disclose, the reason I wear Texas Tech boots is because I failed out of the University of Texas. So I started off with Longhorn boots, but it didn't work out so well. So after my father jerked a rather sizable knot in my tail, I got my head screwed back on straight and got out of college. So I'm not the expert on higher education, is my point.